Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now November 23rd of 2020, and ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga, a lot of fans out there have been very much skeptical and excited at the same exact time about what's to come in the future for this franchise between George Lucas, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, you name it. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about both Disney and Lucasfilm is that they really are trying their absolute best to really get out of this phase of desperation and damage control, to really take advantage of Star Wars as much as possible. Essentially, what they really want to do is that they want to bring Star Wars to the same exact level as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And as I've said before in the past, that's going to take a very high success rate, a lot of time and effort by new creators coming on board. That's going to steer everything in the right direction. Now, when we look at the main creator, George Lucas himself, the man who started Star Wars back in 1977, between him and everything that happened under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership with the sequel trilogy, obviously a lot of change has happened in the past couple of years that left the Star Wars fandom very much divided. Pretty much a large chunk of the fandom have been, very much having different views over Star Wars and what they think about the franchise's future. Now, with that being said, of course, what's really intriguing all has to do with George Lucas himself and everything that has happened with Star Wars. Now, specifically, with the Skywalker saga now over, both Disney and Lucasfilm are fully embraced with their new Star Wars universe and more. It's described that currently many changes are in fact being made behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm, where it's noted that behind the scenes, George Lucas holds great regret and is very sorry for ever hiring Kathleen Kennedy and taking over the new Star Wars trilogy at the time and taking control of Lucasfilm. Now, Lucas is described to feel sorry for what he did to the Star Wars fandom by allowing such a person to create a big divide between Star Wars fans around the world. George Lucas is also sorry and holds great regret over how he handled the Star Wars prequel trilogy movies and feels he could have done a far better job with those films. So let's stop right there for a second. Now, the fact that George Lucas is in deep regret over what happened with the sequels and how he actually handled the prequel trilogy era, I can't fully blame George Lucas at all when it comes to the sequels, because Kathleen Kennedy at the end of the day is an individual that was making these big promises to George to respect the characters, to take care of the universe, and to pretty much, stick with George's ideas and visions. Obviously, Kathleen Kennedy stepped away from those promises and shifted to a different outlook. So when we look at everything of what has been happening between everything with the sequels and the spin-off films that Kathleen Kennedy was pretty much, handling, we've seen a great evolution between George Lucas, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni now taking care of the new EU, which is really going to take off in the next couple of years. So that's the thing, is that we have a scenario now where we've got Kathleen Kennedy pretty much out of the scenario. She's only in charge of one TV show, and that's it. And then we've also got, of course, a scenario in which George, Jon, and Dave are taking care of their own universe. Moving on. Now further, Bob Chapek is described to have had discussions with Lucas about his concerns about the Star Wars fandom and wants to make it up to the fans by doing new and incredible things with the Star Wars universe. George Lucas is said to have hired Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni for future projects because of his regrets over what he did to the Star Wars franchise, and that Lucas feels responsible for the Star Wars fandom of what happened to the sequel trilogy movies and more. So, like I've said, George Lucas was pretty much betrayed by Kathleen Kennedy. There's no doubt about it. When we look at the sequel trilogy, especially The Last Jedi, that was the very movie that really divided the fans and created a lot of problems within the Star Wars fandom. George Lucas, we've seen how he did not attend the premiere of Episode 9. That was a big telltale sign of what was going through George's mind. We went over that before in the past, is that Lucas still has and holds this grudge against Kathleen Kennedy over what she did with Episode 9 based on all the scenes that were deleted and replaced, scenes that George Lucas had worked on with J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. Just makes you wonder exactly what the movie could have been like on the big screen if Kathleen Kennedy did not intervene and did not interrupt and take out those particular scenes. So, further on top of all of this, that's exactly why George hired John and Dave for future projects, be it movies or TV shows, is that he wants to pretty much pay for what was lost for the Star Wars fans. He wants to make up for lost time within the Star Wars franchise. And that's where the new universe comes into play here. That's where we're going to see a lot of great TV shows and new Star Wars movies, I mean, you name it. So I'm very much excited about what's to come in the next couple of years. I don't fully blame George Lucas at all when it comes to the sequel trilogy. That's just my outlook. So let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.